three-way back, you know, it had the gas, three backups, two backups to it, so.
All set, Larry?
Putting my law, say, everybody has to do that as they change.
Okay, it's being 6:30, we'll open the Finance Committee meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mind everybody to put your phones off or on vibrate, please. Town accountant. John Pugh.
Good evening, everyone. I'm John Adams, Town Accountant for North Attleborough. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you this evening about the 2016 budget. I'm going to start off and just do a little review of my department, some key areas, key functions that I want to go over before we actually get into the handouts that you have on the specific budget cuts. So a lot of the area that I'm going to refer to does refer to job functions of the department, who's doing those functions, et cetera.
Is that included in the package?
It's included in with all the job responsibilities, the job descriptions.
Thank you.
Yep. So the key functions in our department. We review all invoices submitted for payment, and we post weekly accounts payable warrant. We review, verify, and post daily revenue batches. We review, prepare, and post weekly payroll warrant, maintain the town's general ledger, and ensure that the town is in compliance with state statutes governing municipal finance. Some of the key items in reviewing a weekly payable warrant. When we get invoices, we verify that proper checks and approvals have been completed by departments, that accounts being charged are reasonable, contracts are on file for purchases in excess of $10,000 for any one vendor, that charges have been procured in accordance with state laws. We compare invoices to what was inputted by the specific departments, called the invoice entry edit proof list. Make sure that everything adheres to purchase order policy, that a valid appropriation exists. We determine that the charge is allowable and reasonable. Verify that the account being charged is appropriate. Assurance that the purchase was properly procured. That payment is being charged the proper fiscal year. Proper authorizations have been obtained, and all discrepancies have been documented. This is important because this contains at least one person's sole responsibility and a little bit of another's as well, and mine. We review, verify, and post daily revenue batches by verifying that accounts being credited are accurate, postings agree with documentation, make sure that no receipts are being credited back to an appropriation, and verify that at least two persons have approved the revenue batch.
The revenue batch? That the weekly?
Right, from the department, to make sure that somebody that's doing the collection has signed off, and that a reviewer has also signed off before the deposit. We also review, prepare, post the weekly payroll warrant by reformatting spreadsheets from payroll for data entry into Munis. We perform review of payroll charges against the prior week as an analytical review and document any variances. We review payroll for proper accounts charged, verify that a valid appropriation exists. We verify proper signatures have approved by the department, and we prepare and verify the posting of the payroll deductions. We maintain the town's general ledger, which is the books and accounts of original record within the town. We have overall 6 fund types. We have general fund, we have special revenue, capital projects, enterprise funds, trust and agency funds, and we have general long-term debt group of accounts. Within our major special revenue funds, they consist of a school lunch fund, a special education reimbursement fund. We have a state grant funds that consist of at least 25 to 30 different state grants. We have a federal grant fund that consists of about 28 federal grants. We have revolving accounts, which can be anything from a 53E&a-half revolving fund that's approved at town meeting annually. Could be a donation and contribution account. It could be a special revenue fund that's a school special revenue fund that comes under Chapter 72. We have 94 of those. Receipts reserved for appropriation, we have 2 of those. We have a highway improvements fund. That's over 150 special revenue fund accounts. We have over 250 capital projects. Each CIP item in a warrant article in any given year is a capital project fund. It has to be accounted for with its authorization, its purpose, and make sure that funds aren't overspent. We have 4 enterprise funds: water, sewer, electric, solid waste. We have over 100 permanent and special trust funds. Those are special endowments.
Excuse me,
Yes,
you oversee the electric department's books?
we oversee their invoices, make sure that they're, nothing is out of bounds as far as reasonableness and accuracy is concerned. But their invoices come through us just like any other department.
Okay,
And
thank
we
you.
have 12 agency funds, which are separate escrow accounts, usually for people that are building new development in town. So overall, total individual funds, including all the special revenue funds, is about 500 different funds in this town. We have an accounting staff of 4. We have myself. I've been here for over 2.5 years. My assistant town accountant, Tammy Belageron, 26.5 years of service to this town. Gloria Pospisil, who's my senior accounting assistant, over 9 years of service to this town. And Melissa Harwood, our data processing assistant, 3.5 years of service to this town. All our staff works town hall hours, 8 to 4 Monday through Thursday, 8 to 6 on Thursdays, and I think it's a Thursday. Monday through Wednesday, 8 to 4, Thursdays, 8 to 6, and Fridays, 8 to 12. So now let me take you through the budget scenarios that I have provided for you. First of all, the summary page gives you a highlight, gives you all the actual fiscal 14, final budget for 15, requested and level service for 16, as well as the 4.09%, 17.35, and 38.26% cuts. I will go into more detail in those, but overall, I just wanted to highlight that my level service budget has decreased, mainly because of my assistant town accountant left and went to DPW, and so my new assistant is at a entry-level step. So my level service budget is actually at the level of 2014. With a 4.09% cut, I will be down at a 2008 fiscal year level. With a 17.35% cut, I would be down to 2006 level. And with a 38.26% cut, I will be at a level that we haven't seen since 2001. I have compared myself with other town accountants that can be compared to. Sometimes you'll have a finance department, which is hard for me to make a comparison because they're in charge of a finance, treasury, assessing functions as well, sometimes IT. So of those that have a similar town accountant's office in neighboring municipalities, I looked at Mansfield, Norton, Easton, and Walpole. Of those 5, we are second to the lowest in budget per capita at $8.49. Walpole was the lowest at $7.68. Mansfield being the highest at $11.92. Level service budget, my budget per capita would be $8.45. With a 4.09% cut, it would be $8.11. With a 17.35% cut, I would be below Walpole now at $6.98. And 38.26% cut, I would be at $5.22. My level service budget for 2016 includes no more than what's in the negotiated contracts at this point. There's no COLAs, there's only steps. People at max steps have nothing at this point. Right now, senior accounting assistant is max step, so she's level funded. And the other two just have step increases. And I have a 2% increase for a level service. For a 4.09% reduction, I would take a 0%. My 3 staff members would have to reduce their hours by 2 hours a week. That would effectively eliminate Thursday nights. That was probably the best scenario. I took 0% so it would reach that point. Thursday nights, since we are in basically an internal service functioning department, our clients are other departments of this town, and not so much the taxpayers of this town, although we obviously will provide them information as requested. But since we're open to the public on Thursday nights, we would be of little consequence to the public, and therefore the taxpayers would not be hurt. This would be the least disruptive option. With a 17.35% cut, I would have to eliminate 1 position. I would take a 0%. The other 2 would remain the same, but I would have to eliminate a full-time position. Any additional monies that are made up because of that, which is like $2,200, wouldn't save anybody. So I would just put it in as overtime to backfill any vacation and sick time as a result of the loss. When we start talking about eliminating positions, as a department who's responsible for internal controls in this town, I need to make a discussion on internal controls and segregation of duties. Let me first define internal control. Internal control is systematic measures such as reviews, checks and balances, methods and procedures instituted by an organization to conduct its business in an orderly and efficient manner, safeguard its assets and resources, deter and detect errors, fraud, theft, and ensure accuracy and completeness of its accounting data, produce reliable and timely financial management information, and adherence to its policies and procedures and plans. A key component of internal control is segregation of duties. Segregation of duties is an internal control. It is designed to prevent error and fraud by ensuring that at least 2 individuals are responsible for separate parts of any task. Segregation of duties involves breaking down tasks that might reasonably be completed by a single individual into multiple tasks so that no one person is solely in control. Payroll management, for example, is an administrative area in which both fraud and error are risks. A common segregation of duties is to have one employee solely responsible for the accounting function and the other for the signing of the checks. A good example I like to use is a movie theater. You're going to have one person that's in their box, they're collecting cash and giving you a ticket. You also have someone maybe just a few steps away. Seems ridiculous that close away sometimes, but they're taking that ticket and they're admitting the person into the theater. The reason that happens is the person in the booth, if that person in front of the entrance to the theater was not there, if you were busy enough, people could sneak by and go in without being seen. Or you could have friends of the employee say, don't worry about it, just go right in. You don't have to pay. But by having that second person there, now you have a second pair of eyes making sure that they are paying and they have to have that ticket in order to get in. Then you have a third person who's usually in the accounting office that's probably taking those tickets from that second person times the amount that it costs for a ticket and seeing that that was the amount that was collected. In a perfect system, those are your internal controls, those by segregation of duties. If you lost that person in front of the movie theater, you could still reconcile the number of tickets, but if he's not giving a ticket, those persons that are bypassing him by eye or by friend, you'd never know. So even though it seems silly at times to have one person that could easily do all those functions, you have to ask yourself, well, why? Is that by design? Is that necessary? What's it saving? What are the benefits of not having, or what's the benefits of having them there versus not having them there? How much revenue might we be missing by not having them there? So at some point, you have to weigh the cost-benefit analysis of that. So when I get in, and when you hear from all these departments about the clerical staff they're using, you have to make a very informed decision on what that is going to do to the internal control of this town. And in this particular cut, the 17.35, I'm losing one person that's reviewing all the invoices. And what's worse is I don't know what I don't know at this point. If there are other clerical functions that are being reduced, what's going to fall on my department? What I don't know is how other departments are going to affect mine. Will we have to enter other departments' invoices? Will we have ample time to review and verify those invoices, those deposits, those contracts? Will we have, what changes to internal controls would have been compromised? I would have to go and do another risk assessment of all these departments to see what decreases in our internal control have been caused as a result of these cuts. And what additional reviews will be required as a result? What additional services might we need? Auditing services, other consulting services. So when you look at my 38.26% reduction, where I have to lay off 2 clerical positions, not knowing what I don't know, and knowing that there would definitely be some high risk. If I have to lay off 2 people, and other departments are laying off 2 people, most likely clerical, it's certainly going to cause a high risk to our internal controls. So when you look at these cuts, the higher the cut that you make to this clerical staff, you have to consider how it all intertwines and how they connect, and how it might break down the possibility that theft, misappropriation, and fraud may occur. That's why I would definitely urge you to go for an across-the-board cut when I look at all departments. One department here or there may be able to make it, and some not. But when you look at them collectively, it's about internal control. With that, I'll take any questions.
Not a good situation.
Not very.
And that's across the board.
Any questions? No?
God bless you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Board of Health?
You already have our packets. We produced this other piece late this afternoon for in anticipation of your questions. Board of Health and the Health Department have put together for you a packet including 4 different budget reduction scenarios. board is not yet decided on whether to pursue the 2.5% option, which is an option to do with public health being a public safety function of town government as established by the Supreme Court in 1911, I believe. But without any interest in being divisive, I would recommend that we push to the green sheet budget. In the budget scenarios that I've prepared for you, the health department is relatively small, has 3 full-time employees, all unionized. It has 4 part-time employees who range in hours from, at present, 25 to 3 per week for the 2 part-time nurses that have been with the department for many, many years. One of which is 87 years old, and she's been with the department for 24 years, and she still loves to go out and see patients. Her salary in the course of a year is $598. The first scenario of a potential cut for the health department as it stands, a 4.09%, requires a reduction of a little more than $10,000, $10,400 from the level funded budgets. It begins the process already of nicking away at the salaries that we have for our part-time employees first, because they're unprotected by a bargaining agreement with the town. The 2 part-time nurses at $598 per annum apiece would be eliminated. Part-time health agent, inspector, would be reduced from 19 hours to 16. The part-time clerk would be reduced from 25 to 21 hours per week. We have such a small operating expense that you'll see as I go through the remaining 3 scenarios that we tick away at small dollars with small cuts, because that's all we have. And I give you the example of the maintenance of the new vehicle that the town was able to get for us 3 years ago. The maintenance budget for the vehicle is $75 for the year, which would effectively cover an inspection and perhaps a headlamp if one burned out. After that, we'd have to move some money around in what we had. The 4.09 reduction budget proposed to you on the green sheet in front of you it hurts. Obviously, it hurts the individuals who are going to lose some of their income and will hurt them most. But we keep the operations of the department effectively up and running, and we are willing to proceed into the year doing what we can with the reduced budget at 4.09%.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So, being that it's a union position, would I be correct in saying you have to take that increase in salary?
That's a good question. I don't know that.
So that's $2,400, which would save your part-time positions?
it's a negotiated contract, so it has to be bargained. Whether
Right.
any of those individuals would be willing or generously offer to give up some of their salary, it would still have to be bargained as I understand it.
Okay.
So, the short answer is, it's a good question, but I don't know the exact answer.
Fair enough.
I take you next to the 17.35% reduction on the blue sheet in front of you. We begin to see some difficulty in the personnel management for the department, and accordingly, the operation of the department that spins from there. You see that we first lose the town physician's stipend of $4,000. We next lose the entire salary of the part-time clerk who just joined us last week, replacing Michelle's mother, who had been with us for 18 years. We're fortunate to have folks that enjoy working in that department with each other, and they stick around for a good long time. The historical value of their knowledge and their ability to do the work with more efficiency than a newer employee is uncalculable, but it's certainly very present. We see, in addition to the loss of the part-time clerk altogether, and the loss of both part-time nurses, a reduction by half of the part-time agent and inspector, whose hours would be reduced from the 4.09 reduction level to from 16 to 8 hours per week, with a 17.35% cut. Again, we don't have a lot of money in our operating budget. Our budget is primarily in salaries. And so we start to tick out dollars from postage, from vehicle supplies, and other small items, relatively small items that I tried to take down proportionately as I tried to spread the pain across all the line items that we had to work with. At 17.35%, our department, with a $255,000 level service budget, was going, or would be required to lose a little bit better than $44,000. And that it cannot come from operating expense, because I only had $4,000 in operating expense to start with. So it has to come from individual salaries. The worst, of course, and the most onerous option is the one on the red sheet in front of you. At 38.26%, we have no choice but to start ticking away at all salaries, including those that are bargained. Again, I don't know what the outcome of such a bargaining agreement or bargaining position would be, but in this scenario, you see the public health nurse reduced here to 15 hours in the budget. You see the sole remaining clerical person, our secretary, reduced to 25 hours per week. You see the part-time inspector actually increased to 10 hours per week so that we can spread the load of the work that's going to be required as we pull in our horns from all the other positions. You start to see, well, you already see in the operating budget ticks going down, maintenance of vehicles from $100 to $50 per year to maintain the vehicle. We could still probably cover an inspection and a smaller light bulb, perhaps in the cabin. But in this scenario, it's a 38.26% cut equals $97,717.99 for our department that has 3 full-time employees, and the duties that you see represented in the sheets behind the colored sheets that spread the budget out in line item reductions. The days and hours of the operating hours of the department are the same as town hall: 8 to 4 Monday through Wednesday, 8 to 6 on Thursdays, 8 to 12 on Fridays, which we would maintain with any of the salary iterations that you saw in the 4 budget sheets that you have. I spoke to you about our long-term employees. I'm a relative rookie at 8 years plus. Anne Marie, our public health nurse, has been in the department for 18 years. Donna Van Det, the secretary, has been with us for 29. The assistant inspector for 12, and the 2 nurses for 12 and 24 years respectively. The job descriptions are as required by Human Services, but if you're so inclined, you can see essential duties and responsibilities enumerated for each of the positions that we have. And those positions go to support the requirements and conditions put on us by the federal and the state government and by ourselves. Our own Board of Health is the luxury and the prerogative to pass regulations with the authority of state law, and they do, and they have. And you have in your package a list of those regulations that they've done on their own beyond that which the state has required of the department and their board, because that board, the gentlemen that are sitting behind me, have determined that some things are important enough to be reduced to a regulation that must be enforced in the town of North Attleborough. The oldest of these, I think, is in 1982, non-public wells. And it's about 3 pages long. The board has asked that we begin to upgrade all our existing regulations and to look at more contemporary regulations like the control of the sale of synthetic marijuana to kids in town. The non-public well regulation from 1982 that's 3 pages long is now in its third or fourth version as a draft, and it's about a half an inch thick. It is something that we run into frequently in the department because of the water table and the conditions in the town. And so the board has said, let's make sure that that regulation is upgraded, made contemporary and appropriate for the conditions that we see and live with every day in the town of North Attleborough. So those responsibilities, federal, state, and also local, put on ourselves, are to be supported by the budget sheets that you have in any of the iterations that you look at with the personnel that we have. Again, 3 full-time employees, 4 part-time employees, including 2 that work 3 hours a week on average. I also handed out to you a pink sheet on Lenore's Pantry and the social service operations that fall by default to our public health nurse, Anne Marie Fleming. We've asked Anne Marie this question in the past, and it defies quantification. How much time do you put into the pantry? Not including the time that she puts in on weekends, nights, and mornings before the department even opens. How much of your time on behalf of your fellow citizens in the town of North Attleborough are you investing on a regular basis? Anne Marie typically says, 15, maybe 20 hours. Trust me, folks, it varies like crazy. For the Thanksgiving and the Christmas and the Easter distributions that she goes through single-handedly, lining up volunteers to do work from one end of the town to the other, is an amazing feat for her to do time and time and time again. The pantry runs largely by volunteers. And while it's easy to think that, well, a lot of the jobs that you do, maybe you can get a volunteer and you can have the volunteer do them. The volunteers are absolutely wonderful. And we couldn't do a fraction of what we do as it is without them. But indeed, they are volunteers. Even this morning, to open up the week with a pantry distribution for Monday morning at 8 o'clock, the 2 volunteers, the regular volunteers that Anne Marie typically employs to pass out the food to the folks that come in and need it, for their own reasons, apart from one another, said, I can't do it today. Meanwhile, Anne Marie wasn't at the department while they were lined up at the back door. She was in Foxborough picking up food donations to bring to the pantry. So she wasn't even in the department to do the rearranging that was necessary to have the pantry step off as it was supposed to. But there were 2 other volunteers that were able to come in unexpectedly and carry the day for the pantry. But just making those arrangements, just finding those 2 extra folks, it's time consuming. But it's what Anne Marie does for the department and for the town, and does on such a regular basis. I would suggest to you that the 15 to 20 hours per week that she's estimated she puts in is a little bit short. I'm happy to answer your questions if you have them.
Anybody, any questions?
Yes, I have one.
Please.
I don't want to disappoint. Is Kay the 87-year-old lady?
I'm sorry?
Is Kay the 87-year-old lady?
Yes, she is.
You thought I was dumb, huh?
Yes, she is. She loves to visit the seniors, and they love to have her, so. Works nice. Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members.
Yes, John,
Can I address the board?
come on down, you know the drill, John.
You'll have to excuse me, my legs aren't raised. John Donahue, Chairman of the Board of Health. I just wanted to talk a little bit. I know we've given you reams of information, and I know your job is going to be very daunting in deciding on what's what and that type of thing. And I just want to kind of talk a little bit about the scope of what the Board of Health does. When I first ran for the Board of Health 9 years ago, I never imagined that the scope of what the Board of Health is responsible for. I always assumed that it would just be restaurant inspections and septic inspections or problems like that. But after sitting in a couple of meetings, I saw the scope of what the Board of Health is responsible for. And it always surprises me. And unfortunately, I don't think the public really knows. We're kind of like the quiet board of the town. Because the police and fire, you know, if there's a fire, the firemen are there. If there's a situation where the police are there. So we're a little bit like behind the scenes type of thing, going over regulations, making sure that the public is safe. So we actually feel a little bit like we're part of public safety, okay, because of some of the things that we have to do. And I don't want to get into that we've done this and we've done that and that type of thing, because I know other people have spoken. But I'll tell you this, that, for instance, we had a problem, we get with the state, there's a lot of unfunded mandates that we get from the state. And I'm sure you've heard that from other departments. And I'll give you a recent one. The state decided for us and for all cities and towns in the state of Massachusetts that we had to have a regulation refrigerator and freezer to keep our vaccines. Now, mind you, we already have a refrigerator and a freezer, but that wasn't good enough. We had to get specs, you know, and that type of thing. We were lucky enough that Anne Marie is very involved with the coalition with the emergency management that we have to do if we have to set up a clinic or like a shelter. And they were able to get funding for these freezers and refrigerators through that so there's no cost to the town whatsoever. As a board, we are always looking for grants or money that we can get even from the federal government. For instance, there was a fund for the federal government a couple of years ago called the Fur Fund. And the Fur Fund supplied equipment for us to use if there was a catastrophe in the town, so that we could do, if we had to do an emergency inoculation, or if we had to set up a shelter at one of the schools, whether it be the high school or the middle school and that type of thing. So, you know, there's a lot of things that we're really looking for, and both Anne Marie and Bob are on, you know, always looking for things to make things better for the citizens of North Attleborough. And I also think that the Board of Health helps out people, either the very old, the very young, but also the people in our community that are, you know, having a tough time. When I started on the Board of Health, we were only servicing about 57 families a month with Lenora's Pantry. We're over 100. Okay? Because the need is out there. You know, it isn't just a matter of sticking volunteers out there. We don't announce, excuse me, oh, free food today, everyone come and get it. There's a process that's followed. And she is in control of the process. She has to interview each prospective candidate to make sure that there is a need. So it isn't just a matter of volunteers running Lenora's Pantry. Now, I don't want you to get the idea that that's all she does. She is constantly on the go. She's picking up food from supermarkets, Trader Joe's the other day from Foxborough. She goes and she visits elderly people, you know, to give medicine or just to check on them. She's going to meetings for emergency preparedness. And this woman is like the Energizer Bunny. Okay, you wind her up and you let her go. I wish we had 10 like her. And I think that has proven itself in the community with several awards that she has gotten from the community. In closing, and like I said to you before, your job is a very delicate and difficult one. And I hope that you understand what the Board of Health and what we do is an essential part of what the community of North Attleborough is all about. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hey, John?
Yes.
If I may?
Sure.
You indicated that you were mandated by some bureaucrat. How much do mandates cost you? And are they revolving? Are they one-shot deals, like the refrigerator would be a one-shot deal?
You want to help me out a little bit on
Apologize for not asking you earlier. You're gonna have to come down for North TV to pick you up.
The question was, are these mandates that come out of the woodwork, are they one-time shots, or are they reoccurring expenses?
Yeah, are they continuing?
There's variety. They have both. If they mandate some new procedure for sharps control, for example, for the
needles.
for the collection and destruction of used needles, that goes on forever. For the replacement of the laboratory grade refrigerators and freezers in order to give free vaccine to the residents, it's a one-time shot. But in that case, it was a $5,000 one-time shot. For a laboratory-grade refrigerator and freezer that would replace a brand-new Frigidaire side-by-side refrigerator freezer we bought using similar money, not the town's money, but similar money through grants a few years ago as a one-time expense. They're unpredictable. You get them both.
You know, there was like one for floor drains, you know, that had it, and so what we do a lot of work with all the other departments in town, some DPW, conservation, you know, the planning board, and so when we go through our process of doing regulations, we have all these, what do you call it, drafts. We send the drafts to whoever is related, and we ask for their input. What do you think about this? Are we missing something? So we try to work very well with the other departments in town hall, so that when we do have a regulation that's going out there, it's not a secret. It's something that everyone knows about in the sense of town hall, so there's a sense of, like, it's joined, not just one department having their own set of regs and another department having a different set of regs, so it just makes it a lot more compact. For instance, another one that we've had a couple of years now is we only are between the Conservation Commission, the Planning Board, and ourselves. We only have using one engineer company to go to properties, you know, to do all the things that have to be done. In the past, developers and other people, regular John Q. Publics, they would have to go to conservation, they would have to go to the planning board, they would have to go to the Board of Health, and it can become very frustrating for people to do that. So now what we've done is we put the process all into one, so that it's a lot more easier for people to get things done.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, one last thing I just want to say, and I didn't say, and I apologize. We are very fortunate in this town with the residents in this town have been more than generous towards Lenora's Pantry. The money that we receive from residents to help the people that are in need is, you know, we would not be able to run the pantry. It's just a godsend, and we're very proud to, with the residents of North Attleborough, that when we have a need, they step up. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, well, could I just have 2 minutes?
What's that?
Could I have 2 minutes?
Certainly.
Two and a half if you want them.
I was gonna do it at the end, but I figured it's in essence of time. Two departments that were unable to make Wednesday's meetings. I'm having a hard time fitting them into our schedules. You guys know what Wednesday looks like. Monday's gonna be a long night as well. We have a meeting scheduled for the 5th, which is Tuesday, and the 6th, which we agreed to kind of put aside solely for deliberation purposes. Would you prefer me to stick planning and animal control on that night, on 5th? Or do you want me to put them somewhere near the end of either the Friday, which is gonna be a late night, or not the Friday, the Wednesday or the Monday? Schools, police and fire, you guys have a preference?
Anybody opposed to throwing another night in?
The what?
Anybody opposed to throwing another night in, like
When?
Thursday? So if we went Monday, Wednesday, Thursday?
Of this week?
Just an
Are
idea.
you guys available?
No, I'm not available.
Okay,
No.
You're not available?
just an idea.
I'm figuring it's not gonna take more than, and Mary said she thinks she needs 20 minutes.
Could we-
Karen is the answer.
Is it possible to start at 6?
Maybe?
We could start every 6, if it's 6, I could get a shot at, both and run a little bit over on one of the nights. Would that be preferable? Okay.
I am at your disposal.
All right, we can start at 6. I'll send you an email, but I think that sounds like a good idea, maybe Monday at 6. Squeeze those in before. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank you.
Keith.
Oh, no problem at all. Hello, everyone.
Good evening.
Haven't seen you all in a while. So I'm sure you got my documents that I gave you. I'm going to give you this that I'm going to read to you too. You'll get that tomorrow or sometime as well.
What's tomorrow?
I'm sorry?
What did you say?
Oh, I'm just reading something over. I'm going to give you guys a copy of it too, so as you're taking notes, you'll kind of a little bit more detail. So my name is Keith Mueller. I'm the IT director. Just want to give you a brief overview of the IT department and what we do prior to discussing these proposed scenarios. We consist of 3 full-time employees, the IT director, the assistant IT director, and the user support specialist. Our department handles all of the town's IT needs except for the school and the electric department. We have 2 main networks in town that the IT department handles. One network is the public safety network, which handles the police and the fire department. It is a completely separate network from the town network. And we're responsible for maintaining the technology of the town, things such as computers, tablets, cell phones, printers, copiers, internal telephone systems, the websites, the server infrastructure, pretty much anything that has technology, we have a touch on that. We also assist departments in assessing the needs for their future technology planning. We use a ticketing system to monitor most of our tickets that fall outside of our day-to-day duties. Tickets are anything from someone who's out of toner to a whole system being down. We try to keep our response times quick. However, with a 3-person department, that task is not always easy. As of January of 2014 to present, we have accumulated approximately 2,100 tickets that have been opened in our system. As it is, we're not keeping the kind of time that I'd like to keeping these tickets to be closed down. And as of 2 weeks ago, the user support specialist has actually left to a different department. So currently, we are sitting at a department of 2 people. We are the department that is the behind-the-scenes department. We take care of every department, so we do have our hands in anything and everything. When other departments' fundings reduce and their staffing reduces, they reach out to technology to help ease the pain. As our dependency on technology has grown, so has the demands on our department. Town had a security group assess a variety of security-related items for the town, and the IT department was evaluated and recommended the IT department should consist of at least 4 people. That allows for cross-training, vacation time, and things like that. At our first cut level that we were requested of 4.09, we would be reducing our budget by about $21,000 or $20,000. At that cut level, we'd be looking to replace the user support specialist with an individual who'd come in at a lower qualifications that we normally would like. We'd require a lot more on-site training compared to an individual who has currently left. While that would take some time, the department would still function and allow for sick and vacation time to happen without the department being only 1 person, or even worse, nobody available. We'd also reduce the budget for the GIS funding by about $10,000. And the GIS, as you may or may not know, is the application that the town uses to create those nice maps that we see. It's the parcel data that the Vision department, that Vision uses online. Police and fire department also use that information for where their runs are and keeps that all up to date. And that also has the overhead flyover, that sort of a thing. So at the first level, things obviously aren't super bad. It still is terrible because we've been, cut every year. The second level, we won't even hire user support specialists. It'll leave the IT department with only 2 members. Cross-training will be virtually impossible, and at times there'll be no personnel available to assist. With only 2 people on, not only is coverage at the town level reduced, it'll also be reduced at the public safety level. Sick days and vacation days will mean minimal to no IT staff at all. Also, the IT department took over the photocopier budget from the selectman's office several years ago. We maintain 12 multifunction printers and copiers across town. We help the departments by removing the less cost-effective printers on their desks and removing the consumable costs from them to the IT department to these multifunction units, which we maintain, and we maintain the consumables for that. At this level of cuts, departments will need to start outsourcing some of their larger printing functions, which would also be, for instance, you guys, when you do your packets and you hand out your recommendations, right now we do those in-house because the per page thing. It unfortunately comes out of my budget too, so we'd have to look at doing things a little bit differently on that aspect. We would also maybe need to reduce some of those printers and have people actually walking to different printers in different departments instead of as spread out as they are. And we would be removing all of the GIS funding minus the things that we absolutely have to do to try and maintain that parcel data, to try and keep it at least on at level. Because we want to make sure that the fire and police department at least have that parcel information. That last cut at 38.2 for 6, that's $189,570.46. That would leave the IT director as the only person handling all facets of the IT department. Only core functions will be monitored, and downtime could take days or weeks to resolve. Public safety would be severely handicapped, as would all town facilities. We lose all GIS funding, lose all website functionality to reduce printer and copier usage to black and white only, with the possibility of only 2 printers or copiers at Town Hall centralized. It'd also be reduced funding for our support services. So, you know, as you have one guy running around, and it's like, okay, well, this server is down, and there's only a certain level of expertise that, like myself, would have. I can't necessarily call out to a vendor to come in and help because they're going to want to get paid. If I don't have the money, I can't pay them. So scenario 2 and 3 would significantly reduce response time to any trouble. It would also not allow us to be proactive. Any downtime is significantly increased, and lines for departments for support will increase if a system went down. Case a few years ago, we had a major system issue at Town Hall. The full staff of 3 of us, the outside vendor assistants, were able to get a variety of core functions back within a week. At the first cut level, it would take a little bit longer. At the second cut level, that week could have been 2 to 3 weeks of no incoming monies or anyone in town actually getting paid. And a level 3 cut, we'd be looking at potentially a month or more downtime. We always do our best to keep things running as smooth as we can. However, year after year of cuts in the IT department, with a staff that is already too small, has taken its toll on the employees in our department, as well as the departments we help to maintain. While our budget keeps shrinking, technology needs keeps increasing, and we'll continue to do as best as we can. I urge you to think about what impact it would be if there were 2 people in the IT department, one was far away on vacation, and the billing system for the town had issues. The town could not accept any payments for taxes or anything along those lines. While at the same time, the police department systems to the cruisers all went down to check warrants and such. With the staffing we have now, it's a tough environment, but we could make things work by having somebody taking care of one, somebody taking care of the other, and somebody taking care of the day-to-day. However, we lessen those people, either the town's going to end up losing money, or an officer or the public could be hurt. And that's the tough part. We all have computers at home. You know, we all know what happens when all of a sudden the internet goes down for an hour. We're all crazy. Well, we have between 500 and 600 different technology pieces that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And we have 3 people. So animal control could be out with their computer. I've got somebody out there. One of the cruisers could have an issue here, and then somebody at the Council on Aging goes down. And all of a sudden, over at Town Hall, the email goes down. There's only so much we can do, and the only time that we have. Would I like to sit there and save my staff? Yes. However, we also have things like, a majority of our budget is service and support contracts. Our financial management system alone is $90,000 a year just for service and support. You know, I'd love to say I don't want to pay that, but we can't do that. That's what we use to take in money and keep track of everything. Police department's PAMET system that they use for everything is, I think, is about $37,000 a year. Those numbers keep increasing every year. As much as we want them to go down, everybody else's costs go up, so our costs go up. We've been trying very hard to find anything that we can to chip away, trying to consolidate printers to make it so that the desktop inkjet printers aren't being used, more on a copy type basis. you know, we're always asked to add things. You know, town website, we had an internal town website, which was working okay. IT department had to maintain it. We now have another company who handles it for us, which is great. Now every individual department can put up information, there's more calendar. You know, want to get more information out to the public. I like doing that, but there's technology behind it. There's also a cost behind it. A lot of the costs that we have, people don't see. You know, we have storage costs, and everyone has a computer at home again. You save things on your computer, you run out of space with your pictures and things. We have the same problem. Everybody is saving space by not putting things in file cabinets because they're saving space in their offices. Instead, it comes to me. I know I have to find the space for that stuff. Not only do I have to find the space for that stuff, but I also have to back that stuff up. And then on top of it all, the disaster, I have to back it up a third time. So the reality is, I have 3 systems, full-scale systems that we maintain. You know, we will always do the best that we can with what we have. I honestly don't want to be the only person running around here town doing the financial for the IT and being under the desks. Yeah, it's not going to help anybody. But, I mean, that's kind of where we stand. I'm always here for questions and, you know.
So, I think I missed it. How many endpoints are you responsible for?
Well, we have approximately 600 different devices on the network.
Yep.
Which can change. I mean, we've got, each of the cruisers have their own tablets that are installed.
Right.
Plus, we also have the radios that are associated to the fire department. We're slowly setting them up. Just did the joint dispatch system, so you have the whole 911 system now that's tied in with a variety of different things.
Yep.
You know, on the town side, everybody pretty much has a computer sitting at their desk for one thing or another.
Sure. The storage aspect, is that off-site? Is it hosted by another company? How do you handle your storage?
So we have, at Town Hall, there's a facility that we have here, and we have a facility here.
Yep.
And then a third location is over at an AED at the NOC.
Okay.
That's there. We're still building on that one, considering we just did the joint dispatch, so.
Okay. And then you're saying 90K for service, 30K for, 37,000 for service.
Yep.
I was just trying to see where it was here in the expenses side.
My general expenses is the maintenance of computer
Okay.
hardware. That's where a majority of all my service contracts and things come from.
Okay.
In there is usually, I try and save about $10,000 or so for break and fix, because I
Sure.
don't know what's gonna happen.
Right.
But that's one of the numbers that get chips away. I mean,
Right. Now, do you still have hard servers, or are you virtualized?
we virtualized.
Okay.
And we
Good.
just recently did that through the CIP program,
Right.
and of course, the fun of that is that great, and then all of a sudden something grows, and we now, software upgrade comes up for one of our vendors,
Right.
and it goes, okay, well, we need this kind of server or this kind of software. Well, I don't have that available, so now I gotta buy another system to add to that, which then adds to software and more
Right.
licensing. It's a vicious circle.
Oh, sure, sure. And the other last question I have is, was there any discussion or thought to combine the IT from the schools and the town IT departments? So it's a core group responsible for
Right.
everything in the town, as opposed to 2 distinct groups?
We have spoken with the town administrator about it. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna speak after
Okay.
about his
Okay.
department. I'll mention
Okay.
that.
Yeah, so yes, there was discussions about it. I will say there is a very large difference in the type of systems that the school has
Sure.
versus the town. So we weren't really sure how well that would really meld together or even save the town any money. Because while you might add some personnel to a certain extent by having the school's IT department in, you're still handling the same amount of things. It's not alleviating anything. And the town can't take advantage of any of the cost savings that the school has for, say, Microsoft licensing. You're not allowed to do that. You're only
Sure.
allowed that on the school side.
Correct.
So,
But at least from an endpoint perspective,
Mhm.
you would have more hands-on.
well, we'd like to think that, but the amount of hours that the
Right.
school department people are out and doing their thing,
Sure.
they wouldn't necessarily be available for the town side.
Okay.
Which is exactly how, with what we have now, with 3 people, it worked out pretty well, the bare minimum, because
Right.
I'm running the management, we've got one guy running the town side and the police side, and the big projects, they would join together, so there's cross-training.
Right. And I would say the assessment is short. With 600 devices,
Mhm.
you should be more around 5 people.
Yeah, I would agree, and that was kind of like a bare minimum.
Yep. Yeah, in my professional opinion, you should be over 4. with that many devices at your
I
support.
would agree, and, you know, I would love to have a GIS person, I'd love to have somebody who actually was an Exchange server admin, so that that part is
Correct.
taken care of, but we do with what we can.
Good, yeah.
And we try and save, you know, we're that department that we don't bring in any income. We know we don't.
Right.
We try to do what we can to keep everything as cost-effective as possible, and people don't like us when we say no. And there are times that we say no, and there's reasons we say no, because if you might get a grant today, and technology grant, and this is all great that it's here today, well, how are you gonna take care of it next year if you think the
Bad
IT
question.
department's gonna pick it up?
Right.
I don't have it in my budget either.
And I'm assuming, you're probably in long-term contracts with the service providers, three-year?
We try to if we can, but some of them, they're usually in the state bid list anyway. That's what we
Okay.
try and stick with, so, sometimes it is a year to year, depending on what it is,
Yeah,
because 3 years doesn't save us any money. But I also wanna make sure that if I have to not have the contract for a
Right.
year, I have that flexibility, because
Sure.
it's just becoming pinching pennies here and there.
sure, absolutely. And one last question.
Absolutely.
On the data lines.
Yes.
Can you tell me what is in that budget? Are you, is it your T1s, your,
Right now, we have 50 meg connections from Comcast, both here at the police station as well as at Town Hall. Believe it or not, we've been able to keep a 50 meg connection viable for the town and not have many slowdowns.
and is there anything else in that data line?
In that mix, so you have those two lines.
Yeah.
And there's also our spam and antivirus filtering from our service provider that we deal with. So we don't have to deal with that in-house, so I don't have to worry about whitelisting and blacklisting on this side.
Yeah.
And I have a service provider that, if we do run into a problem, I can call them and say, either the internet's down or something's running slow, and they can run with it. Versus me having to chase everybody's tail through Comcast, because we all know how fun.
And who are you
Comcast-
using for that? Just out of curiosity.
Integrity by Celt, which is a company that also the school department uses.
Right.
They're under the state contract.
And what is that? Do you happen to know the cost breakdown on that?
I'm not off the top of my head, but I can get that for you.
That'll be
absolutely.
great. Awesome.
I promise you, I will not ask you a technical question that would stump you. Why are you laughing? The two questions I have is, on the school side, do you know how many people are in their IT department? You're allowed to say you don't know.
I don't recall off the top of my head.
I
I mean,
think
it's
it's at
been
least
adjusting.
6.
I thought it was 6,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to throw that number out there and be wrong.
That's fine. Excuse me. The other question I have, I don't know if you would be akin to this or the application would work for it, but have you ever considered interns?
Sorry?
Have you ever considered bringing in interns from the various schools around?
Well, we have done a few different things for the interns. My problem becomes it's a big security thing. I have an intern who comes in who might know something about computers. Well, I have to give them admin access to everything, sensitive information, the police department. I don't know how long they're gonna be here, how long they're not gonna be here. Teach them how to do what they need to do takes time, and then when they're up and gone, now I've gotta take everything that I gave them for permissions, take all those out and change all my admin stuff. So,
You have to repeat the process when you get the next intern, so the
over
onboarding
and
process
over and
becomes
over
a.
again.
So the payback really isn't there?
It's not a huge payback. There are some aspects we did when, for website and things like that, and we do help other departments who do have an intern. We'll set them up in a completely separate area. We'll bring one of the laptops that we have and plug it in somewhere for them to do what they need to do completely off the town network. I try very hard to be secure as much as possible. I don't like an open machine just sitting there that somebody can jump on. I don't like people just sharing passwords. That's not where we're at. So I try and keep it locked down as much as I can.
Okay, thank you. And I didn't ask you a technical question you couldn't answer, right?
Be good?
Thank you. First of all, I will address the concept of joint IT departments between the school and town. Back when Mr. Rice was our superintendent, him and I, matter of fact, went to several seminars and actually visited a town who had done that. It was something we had quite a few discussions on. Unfortunately, it did get to the point where
The schools didn't feel that we could get the right combination of people, that their needs and the experience and background they required was different than what we had. And obviously with the demise of Mr. Rice, things kind of floated back. This is the first year that we've included the IT department in the cut bunch. And the reason why is because we've got such a big number to cut, we had to increase the base to spread that over. His department represents a little bit under 1% of the cut bunch, as we call it. If you think that people can be inefficient, wait and see what happens when the computers go down. I am completely useless, and he knows because I call him at 5 o'clock in the morning, at 6 o'clock at night, different times. I literally can't function without it. Everything I do is tied up with computers. We all are. I mean, that's how we communicate, that's how we analyze, that's how we do all of our job functions. Can you imagine what would happen to the accounting department if the computers were down? I mean, if we're inefficient because we don't have enough people to begin with, now let's take away the tool that makes them efficient. And it doesn't affect just one department. It affects all of them. And to think that we could get into a scenario where we may not have an IT person working, it's just unthinkable. I mean, it's just absolutely, we're talking about putting hundreds of people into not being able to process. We talk about delivering police and fire services. If these systems go down, we can't even get them out the door efficiently and properly. All of the technology they use now to assist them in getting to where they're supposed to go and making sure that, especially in the area of medical services, having all the prompts and different things that they need. This is a scary one, but one I felt we needed to include it because the cut was so big, 2.1 million. We tried to bring in as many people into the departments into that cut base, but you want to talk about making something you think is inefficient, just let the computer system go down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go down and not come back up.
Any other questions? Okay, Keith,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Feel free to ask any questions anytime, and I'll get you that information.
Thank you.
Okay, just send it over to Michelle, and Michelle will get it out to everybody.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Keith.
Good evening, Frank Ward, Library Director.
God bless you. Hi.
Thank you.
Oh, super, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to read from this and then describe the budget scenarios that you requested. The most important thing to the library in this year's budget process is to maintain the library's state certification. With certification, the library will receive state aid, and most importantly, it will keep its reciprocal borrowing rights with other libraries across the state. There are 46 communities that are in the same population category as North Attleborough, 25,000 to 50,000 residents. All of these communities have libraries. In almost every category that you can measure, the Richards Memorial is dead last. We have the smallest building, no parking, and the smallest collection size. Because of that, it is imperative for the library to be able to borrow materials from other communities, because it is impossible for the library to house a collection that could meet local demand. There is a myth that the internet is putting libraries out of business. That is not true. The internet enhances library service, it does not erode it. This library offers free Wi-Fi to its residents, and our 5 public computers, which are on a registration software package so we can track this, that were used in 13,025 individual sessions over the course of fiscal 2014. In fiscal 2014, the library's people counter registered 112,680 visits. Total circulation was 160,296. There are 14,934 individual library card holders in town. North Attleborough's library borrows twice as many materials to circulate to our patrons than we send to other communities. This is absolutely vital to us. If certification is lost, other communities will actually be cutting us off and not sending us their materials. The standards that need to be met to remain certified are set by the library commissioners. They include a budget formula, which we have not met since fiscal year 2010. Up until through 2009, the town always funded us to that formula, and then it became impossible to do so. So since 2010, we've been operating under waivers. There are also standards for operating hours and the amount to be spent on library materials. You can't get waivers for those two requirements, but you can actually enter into them with prorated compliance at 90% or 80%. The trustees are trying to curb costs by entering into prorated compliance in the number of hours of operation and the amount of money spent on library materials. A decision has already been made to change the schedule from 59 hours a week to 53, and instead of spending the equivalent of 13% of the town's appropriation, the library will be spending 11.7%. This will make the library 90% compliant. We will receive still 75% of what would have been our state aid award, and most importantly, we'll still be able to borrow materials from other communities. Certification will be maintained if the budget cut for the library is the same that is given to other departments. Now that would be the ideal situation under a 4.09% cut. We have one senior librarian who's retiring next year, the senior children's librarian, and her junior will assume her position, and then that junior position will not be funded. So we'll be saving 3/4 of a person's salary next year. That's a big help. The building is 120 years old. It's 9,000 square feet. The lights have to stay on. The heat has to stay on. These are all pretty much fixed costs. The $22,819 for our sales network membership is an essential expenditure. Otherwise, we would have to have a standalone patron database, a standalone circulation system, a standalone cataloging system. Under a 17.35% cut, we would again keep the full-timers that we have. We would keep the janitor, because a building of that size and age needs to have a janitor. He works 20 hours a week. We would reduce our part-time staff to 3 part-timers who would be desk assistants, and they would be working 19.5 hours per week. The library is open, as it is said now, is 59 hours a week. We will be open 53 hours beginning on July 1st. Well, actually, in July 1st, we'll be on summer hours, which is a more reduced schedule. The state allows us to actually not observe required hours during summertime. It's some regular compliant hours are Labor Day to Memorial Day. So it's 3/4 of the year. Again, the fixed costs for the operations would remain the same. The big difference would be in the amount of money that we would have available to spend on library materials. We can augment that out of some state aid that we have saved up, and we also have some bequests that we are spending down, and we also have some trust fund income that we can use. So we are able to keep that up. The big problem under the 17% cut is that we would probably be decertified at that point. It would be a cut beyond 10%, which is the usual threshold that the library commissioners allow. At the 38.26% cut, we would need to eliminate all the part-timers. I would lay off an additional full-time librarian. I volunteered to take a 5% pay cut. We'd still keep the janitor, and at that point, we would certainly be decertified, and would probably be open perhaps 40 hours a week.
difficult is it to get that certification back if they decertify?
It usually takes 2 or 3 years. You're decertified for 1 year, you can't reapply until you have been meeting standards for 1 full year afterwards. One thing that I should say also, public safety is something that we are worried about and concerned about, especially because so many children use the library. The building is on 2 levels. It has, obviously, with the aisles of the stacks, it has a lot of nooks and crannies. One part of my job is just constantly sort of patrolling around the building just to make sure that things are going smoothly and nothing that's not supposed to be happening is happening. And I would really worry about that. We have a policy that we don't have the building open to the public with fewer than 3 employees. So we can always keep an eye on how things are going. Always have 1 person on the front of the first floor, 1 person at the back of the first floor, and 1 person downstairs. There are locks in the bathroom doors. That's for a reason, because people don't realize how public a public library is. We are open to everyone. We serve the entire community. We serve seniors. We serve people who have been laid off, who are trying to retool for different jobs. I spend a great deal of time helping people on the public computers writing resumes or faxing resumes in to different places. We have children. We have story hours. We teach people how to use the library. We help people do their homework and also to use our databases. We like to think, and I think we can bear this out, that we're a vital part of the community.
How much do you receive in state aid reimbursement?
This year, it was about $25,000. And of course, when we go into prorated compliance on our standards of operation, we have, for every 10% that you cut in a standard, you have a commensurate 12.5% cut in your state aid award. So if you're 80% compliant in both hours and library expenditures, you'd be getting 50% of your state aid. Below 80%, you're non-compliant and you're cut off.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Points for that.
That's the assessors.
Oops.
Good evening all, Paul Pinsino, Board of Assessors. And not only, I guess, am I here to discuss the budget, but I think we have one article. And if you don't mind, if we could maybe discuss that one first, if that's okay with you. That'll just take a moment, I think. We have Article 14 scheduled for, that is listed in the warrant. And that pertains to doubling the exemptions. This article has been submitted for approximately the last 9 or 10 years. And basically what it does is to bring the value of the exemptions that people are statutorily allowed to get, since they have not been, the values have not been adjusted for many years by the state. What this does is to bring them up closer to have the same kind of an effect as it relates to the tax bill as the initial allotment was made. So. Again, this has been on a warrant for the last 9 or 10 years, and what it does is to double what the state says exemptions, be it for veterans, elderly, the blind. It doubles what they're entitled to, and we have passed that every year for, as I said, the last 9 or 10 years.
What would those exemptions be?
What would they be for?
No, how much money would be exempt?
You're talking approximately $120,000.
No, but per person?
Oh, it varies. There are some that are worth $200 and some that are worth $600, $700. So those people would have double those amounts that I just mentioned. Any other questions on that article?
Well, that's the Conservation Commission, right?
Okay.
Am I looking in the right book?
You were, that was last.
That's the annual, you're looking at the special.
Oh, yeah.
My bad.
Oh, it
I
was
went through
one
the same
couldn't
thing,
find
that's the only
either.
reason I can answer the question.
Okay,
Okay.
You don't have the end.
I don't have it.
You got the annual probably a month and a half.
About a month and a half ago. Okay. I was looking in that book.
It's
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Everybody see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all confused.
We
don't know where
Maybe see it tonight.
There we go. I guess, next, about the budget. I believe information was dispensed to Michelle and hopefully passed on to all you members regarding the budget for the upcoming year. And the three scenarios that we have, I think as requested, reflect a 4%, 17%, and 38% adjustment to the budget. And if you look at it appears as though to comply with the 4% adjustment, we feel that we have an item within our budget that we could absorb it and still keep the rest of the operation in line. The item that I'm referring to is where we had some monies allotted each year for the update of an appraisal for Emerald Square Mall. As all of you know, we're in litigation right now for FY 13 and 14, and we feel that hopefully, as what happens in many instances, not only will those years be decided, but there may be some values that are decided for the next 1 or 2 years. Anticipating that that might happen, that is why we have adjusted that line item for the sake of this exercise. As we get down to the 17%, I think like many people, now we're talking personnel. Our department has a department head, an assistant assessor, and then there are 3 other people in the department that help her in accomplishing all the tasks. If we did have to go down to the 17% level, that would mean that we would lose the most junior person in the department. So that would be one person that we would have to, one position we would have to eliminate. And then when we get down to the 38%, being just about double the 17%, that would mean another individual. So that would mean that 2 out of the 3 people in the department would go, which would leave the department with the assistant assessor and 1 clerk. There are many items that are done by the assessor's office, and a lot of them are built up and wind up, they culminate at the end of the year. And just for an example, some of the things that we do. The Board of Assessors is responsible for certification and interim year adjustments on values within the town. We process abatements for real property, personal property, and excise abatements. We process statutory exemptions on an annual basis. We establish and maintain and monitor the balance in the overlay account, where many of these adjustments are made. They're applied against the overlay account during the course of the year. Each municipality in the state must inspect properties over a 9 or 10 year period, and we are on schedule now, and I think we're maybe around year 7 in a row that we have been able to inspect the number that we have been in compliance with an agreement that we made with the state a few years ago. We inspect all properties when building permits are pulled. We determine the estimated new growth for the upcoming year based upon the permits that are pulled. And all of these things are done, and at probably culminating near the year end is when we commit to the tax collector the bills for the property tax and the personal property tax and real estate property tax. And hopefully this is done in time to get the tax bills out prior to the first of the year, so that these bills can be due to the town around the beginning of February. If by chance we miss that date and go beyond January, then these bills are not due the town until May, which would obviously affect the cash flow. How detrimental it would be for the town, I'm not sure. But a lot of the items that I mentioned are a build-up to making sure that we can get these bills done on time. And by accomplishing these tasks during the course of the year, we are working with the Department of Revenue, and we have some checks along the line, and we have different reports where they go and they okay these things, and then they finalize the information, and we're able to commit to the tax collector the bills. Obviously, if there was reason to reduce the staff, it would have an impact on our department head. Obviously, they would have to assume some of the responsibilities that were being done by the other person. And the person that we would envision that would be the one who would be released does the inspections at the current time. And we used to go out and hire people to do this, and we were able to reconfigure the workload and get somebody in within the existing manpower to be able to do those duties in-house as opposed to hiring a person outside. That could be one of the first things that would start to take a slide, is the inspection of these houses. What that would mean to the community from the state, I'm not entirely sure. But that would probably be one of the first things that would be affected with the cutback of the manpower. Any questions? Any questions?
Did you hire your lawyer?
What's that?
Did you hire your lawyer when you had the commitment
Well,
for the mall?
oh, we have a lawyer.
Yeah, you were reluctant they were reluctant to deal with you until they had you had the finances. I just want to know you're all set in that regard.
Well, we're all set for the current litigation that we're
Right,
going
that's
through,
what I
yeah.
meant.
Oh, yeah, yes, we are. Yeah, we're all set for that. If that takes care of this, I believe Michelle also wrote a letter or note indicating that if there were comments about the stipend articles. If so, I don't know if there would be, did I read that right, that either make a comment now about it or later on when it's,
Yes,
When-
we were, Ryan asked me to let them know, and I talked to them all about it, if anybody, boards that have stipends wanted to make a comment about it, they could do so when their budget hearing was up.
okay now then? Okay. Obviously, I think we're all aware that last year was the first year that the stipends were eliminated. And at least it was my understanding, and I think the understanding of a number of people, that it was done on a temporary basis. And as we all recall, there was no opposition when it was brought up on town meeting floor, and it passed. And I think that the looking at the value, I believe that the Finance Committee already handicapped the total amount of the stipends when it referred to approximately $31,000, I believe, of what the stipends were. And they already handicapped it for the stipends that are paid to electric and DPW. And I think, I would imagine that that's because maybe those funds do not come out of the tax rate, and it's reconciled, and it comes out of the operating funds that they have. So,
But the article, or even regardless of where it comes, you correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Fisher, the town, through those two articles, said there was no, they wouldn't get paid.
I understand that, but I guess I was just saying that when you look at those, because the two departments that I mentioned are enterprise funds, they don't come out of the taxpayer, they come out of the ratepayers of the enterprise funds, I believe.
Right, but the article,
DPW comes out of the tax base.
out of the tax base, but even the electric department, they weren't authorized to pull that money, even it comes out of the electric department. I believe that's correct, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
they should not have taken it, I'm sure they didn't. I would guess they did.
Well, I'm not saying they did. I'm just saying that the values for, the stipends for those departments don't come out of the taxpayer. They're from the ratepayers of those enterprise funds. And I know that there were, not only are those not part of the taxpayers, but there are other amounts that, I don't know if you people are aware, that really don't get expended. And I know that there are people who don't take the stipend. They make it a point to say, don't issue me a check. There are others who say, after they receive a check, they put it in a desk and they don't cash it, and it winds up being uncashed for a while, and then you talk to those people, and they say, well, forget it, throw it in the general fund. Not only do they do that, there are some other people who come up and they say, I'd like to help the town, but if I put it in the general fund, what happens? And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that any stipend not actually issued to a particular individual goes into the general fund, and then those monies become up for grabs by anybody. So what a number of people have done is that they will take the stipend, and then they will make a contribution in the amount of the stipend that they're receiving, and to help out the departments that they choose. And for example, I think we all know that we have heard that there were scholarships that were created. And then there are contributions I'm aware of that were made to Animal Control, Park and Rec Department, Lenore's Pantry, Council on Aging, Library, School Band, specific PTOs, World War I Memorial, World War II Memorial Pool, and those amount to about $10,000. My point being is that the net cost to the taxpayer is not necessarily the $31,000. It's more like $20,000. That being the case, I think that there are two ways to accomplish continuing to fund the stipends. And one is a temporary solution, and another is a permanent solution. A temporary solution that could be done, and it could come out of the article that I referred to a moment ago, where the town doubles the exemptions. As I mentioned to Mr. Murphy, and I guess I misunderstood his question, but the total value of that doubling is $120,000. If we so chose to amend the article to not be 2 times what they're entitled to, but 75% more, still give them quite a bit more than they're statutorily allowed to get, that would amount to $30,000 unexpended, which is obviously well in excess of the $20,000 that I think is more of what the cost of the stipends are. That would be a temporary solution. Permanent solutions could be that, I'm not sure the number at this time, but I know that there was a time that there were a fair amount of part-time employees in the town that were working over the number of hours whereby they were entitled to accumulate vacation time, sick time, and also possibly be entitled to health insurance. There was a time that, if I recall, the last time I looked at it, there were around 15 to 18 people who fell into that category. I'm not sure what that number is today, but that would be an item that could help out. Another item as it relates to pay, I guess, and I know we've heard it a number of times, and that's biweekly pay. I would like to see even go beyond the biweekly pay and say that we could make it mandatory that direct deposits. Everybody is on direct deposit. And not only direct deposit, but then there is no issuance of any document to the individual. Many firms out there do that today. If you want the detail of your check, you go online and you look it up. So the town would not have the expense of not only not processing the payroll every week, but they would not have to pay for any of the documents, be it a live check or even a stub, for any of the 1,100 or so employees in the town. I think a lot of the board members, they do a pretty decent job. And I believe that they're, in the case of the Board of Health, I think that they go and they attend other seminars to make sure that they're up to date on a number of things that are helping, that affect their department. I know that the planning board, not only do they meet every other week, but they also have people on their board that belong to other associations like Serpide, and this is another evening, and again, done with no additional compensation. In addition to that, the planning board, as we have all seen on town meeting floor, there are so many articles that relate to zoning and land, and they are out there doing field work an awful lot of the time. I'm not really familiar 100% with all those departments. I am pretty familiar with the assessor's office, however. And I know, as it relates to the assessor's office, we meet every week of the year on Thursday night. And if by chance there's a holiday that comes up on a Thursday night, we meet another night. And at the beginning of the year, not only do we meet one night a week, but when the abatements are processed, if the need arises, we will meet a second night. When one becomes an assessor, it is mandated that they become certified. And all 3 current board members are certified by the state of Massachusetts. In addition to that, Massachusetts has an association for assessing officers. And I'm proud to say that all 3 members of the current board have taken all the courses required. And that usually takes somewhere between 3 and 4 years to accomplish. We've all done it. We've all attended classes, be it in Southborough, be it in Boston, be it down the Cape, all over the place. Again, extra time. And I guess as it relates to the current situation with the mall, we've had an individual from our board attending each of the sessions that they've been in Boston for the last 2 weeks, 2 to 3 days a week. We all have jobs, so when we go there, we're obviously not getting paid to do the jobs that we all could be doing. So I just wanted to mention those things, that for approximately $20,000, I think it's a bargain to take care of the people who are serving on the boards. And I think that there are ways that can be done to make up that $20,000 a year by doing a portion of the items that I mentioned. So I appreciate your time and listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm insulted. Paul, come back down here. I'm insulted that you would suggest taking a couple $100 from a blind person to pay somebody's stipend. I'm insulted, really. I just can't believe anybody would think of that. You can take a wounded veteran and worry about a couple $100 to pay somebody's stipend. I'm sorry.
I can appreciate that statement, but you know what? I think there were some people who were offended at least that much when last year at town meeting, it was told by a member of this committee, you don't have to worry about that. It's so little money, you shouldn't care about that stipend. Well, if you some of the people who were unemployed, had exhausted their unemployment benefits, had taken money out of their 401k, even that smallest stipend helps to put food on the table for your family. Okay, so I think that works both ways. I appreciate your comment, but I think that we were insulted too last year at town meeting when that comment was made. Totally unfair.
I don't know who made it, but I'd apologize to you for whoever made it. That
Probably
wasn't
me.
the feeling of the board.
Probably me.
No, I'm not gonna.
It's okay.
I know what it was made, and I appreciate your comment. But again, you know, it's not that, we wanna take $200 away from a blind person. And I think that's, I think you know that. There could be a way to modify it, I guess, you know, but, again,
Sorry.
a lot of
My
other
wife did that.
communities pay what they have to pay. North Attleborough has been wonderful for many years in giving people twice as much as what the state says they're entitled to. And we're just saying, as opposed to 100% more, is 75% more, is that gonna hurt? Maybe it could hurt them, certainly it's not the intent of any individual.
Well, I'd like to thank you. I mean, obviously, you've addressed a concern, and you also came with solutions. Many people wouldn't do that. So I thank you for coming with potential solutions. You know, I also am of the belief, too, that, and correct me if I'm wrong, when those stipends disappeared, did anybody leave any of the boards that they were serving because of the stipends?
People, I don't know if that's the reason, but if you look at who ran for re-election, who didn't, we lost a few good people this year.
And were those positions filled by new people?
I'm not saying they weren't filled, the re-election,
Right. Again, so my follow-up question is, did the positions get filled? Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some historical people that left, and I was just.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure, but, you know, but the seat got filled, correct?
I'm always a proponent of competition and new people coming forward too,
Sure,
but people didn't leave.
right. So we don't know why they left, but those seats were filled. So there's not a shortage of people serving on the boards.
I don't know of anybody that left for that reason.
The
Right.
Board of Selectmen's gonna appoint, we're gonna advertise for appointment.
My thing was, and it was just from our perspective, is to say, people want to help their town. They want to volunteer, and they want to step forward and they want to do what they can. Just like this board does as well. We don't have, there's no compensation or any stipend for this board. We do it because we want to dedicate and volunteer our time to better the town,
Understood.
you know?
I don't
And I
know
can.
how long you've been on it, but I think a number of the people who've been on it for a while. I recall when you couldn't get half this many people on the finance committee. It's only been recently that there's been a full board. And at town meeting, the moderator would say, please help me. You know, does anybody want to do it? And nobody would say it. And I'm not saying the stipends compensate them for it. But when you take that away, and then also now, in order to help defend the case that we're doing now with, in Boston for the mall, we're taking a day out of work, so it's costing us a day's pay to go in, and, so that's
Valid.
expensive too.
Sure.
You know, you're not losing any money when you come to a meeting here. We're losing a day's pay when we go in there. And it's not only one day. We've been in here, I think, for 8-9 days now. And also, on top of that, we've had 2 visits at the mall one was 4 hours, one was 6 hours, with our attorney, with our appraiser, and with the commissioner who's here in the case. So there's another day's pay that we're not getting, that doesn't affect you. So it's not just, I guess, the amount of a stipend. Again, I think that there are ways that small amount of money, and I understand that every nickel is important now. It's very, very
That's the
important.
unfortunate circumstance we're in.
But there are ways to get it done if one wants to do it.
And that's why I thank you for your presenting solutions as well, or potential solutions.
But they're not new, they've been talked about before, but they're still being talked about, that's all.
I guess it would be only proper for me to take the blame for cutting the stipends last year. We entered into negotiations with the police department through the town moderator, and it was the only way we could keep crossing guards. And we just felt, particularly I, even though I don't have kids on the street, that was extremely important for the safety of the kids. The thing that, and I can only say this in retrospect, I didn't think of it at the time, we probably should have offered people the opportunity to have another session to discuss it, giving people a chance to speak. We didn't know it, I don't think, until it was the 11th hour, or at least the 10th hour. So, yeah, and it was probably me, you can say it was me, it's okay, that made the comment on town floor about the stipends, and that's okay. If I did it, I did it, and I don't remember specifically what I said, but I do remember that I did speak.
It wasn't you. You weren't the one that made the comment. I was referring to. I don't know if that's you were talking about. And again, I think that no board member got up at town meeting and tried to overturn it. It was accepted. It was interpreted, at least, as being a temporary thing. And as I said, if it's going to be something, if we're all supposed to share the pain, if it's all supposed to share the pain, then we can do it by way of adjusting the injunctions that I mentioned, and that can be just a temporary thing.
Thank you.
I appreciate
I just
that.
wanted to confess.
Okay.
Well,
Okay, John?
John Donahue, Precinct 7. I know this was discussed quite a bit on town meeting floor about the stipends. I talked about it at length on the floor, and I think what you have to do is you have to look at certain areas with the stipends. As far as the Board of Health is concerned, I'd much rather give the money to my staff than to take it from me, okay? I think that you have to look at the elections department, where people get some type of money for doing it. I asked Pat, and I don't think there's been a lack of volunteers, but there are elderly people that do it, some elderly people, but I think they kind of depend on that money. And the other one being the Board of Assessors, because all the time they have to put in, taking days off from work and that type of thing. I can't speak to the other boards, that are in town, but I think most of them, would much rather just pass on the stipends, and until we get out of this mire that we're in. But I think that maybe you should look at a few of them and maybe fund those. That's all. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
they all went away, Paul.
What?
They all went away.
Mark?
Thank you. I want to compliment Michelle for putting together a schedule. Only 5 minutes off, that's tremendous.
Yeah, we'll see how long.
For- If I can keep you here till midnight.
Mark's the last one. Is that an indictment?
Not Bob, my added Bob Nurse.
Yeah,
Bob
yeah,
was
like
after
Bob
Mark.
said.
Bob can wait.
Hey, we
This
could-
is a little unusual for me to be here speaking as a department head rather than trying to look at a more global situation with the town. But I did want to make a comment about the library. There was one other point that wasn't brought out. One of the conditions on getting our waiver so that we get library aid is that, and why we'd be able to get it, we have to send them a letter showing that the libraries were never cut any more than the other departments. And because the libraries were cut the same percentage as the other departments, the state would give a waiver. But I had to send them the budget, the document, show them what the cuts were in order to maintain that waiver. So I'm going to tonight address you in relation to the requested scenarios that you've put in the front of us for the Board of Selectmen office and the Town Hall staff functions. That all comes under the Board of Selectmen's budget. I've given you several reference documents. The first one I'd like to highlight a little bit is just the functions, the various functions that are performed within our office by various people. In the report that I gave you, I highlighted those functions that were mandated by bylaw, described by bylaw, and the ones that aren't blue in color are just normal job functions that they do. Obviously, we are the staff for the Board of Selectmen. Anything involved with the activity of the Board of Selectmen, we take care of the functioning clerical, scheduling, research, all of that goes with it. We take care of all of the agendas and all of the information that goes out to them. We're responsible for putting the budget together for the town, as well as making that information available for everyone in the town. We are also responsible for the capital improvements program. The chief procurement officer for the town. We're in charge, or supposed to, by bylaw, are involved with all collective bargaining, the 6 unions that are covered by the town. We are the grant coordinator. We take care of, have to oversee all grants applied for within town. We are responsible for all insurances within the town. And then we have a number of miscellaneous items, such as the annual town report, and we obviously construct and distribute all of the town warrants. We hold 8 to 12 department head meetings a year. We represent the town on the GATRA Advisory Board. It's about 4 meetings per year. We represent the town on the Southeastern Mass Health Group Steering Committee. That's the committee that we buy our insurance through. They have about 9 meetings per year. We represent the town on the Attleborough Area Home Consortium for about 3 meetings a year, and we oversee the monthly workplace committee meeting to review all workers' compensation and property damages claims. As stated, we meet monthly. We are also in charge of personnel and ensuring that everything within the bylaws of the town as it applies to the human resource function is adhered to. We have a custodial staff. There are 15 departments in Town Hall that are there full-time, and then there are a few departments that are there part-time. We oversee the building, the custodial staff. We coordinate all the maintenance contracts for Town Hall. We have electrical, plumbing, elevator, you name it. There are several different contracts. We, as being Chief Procurement Officer, we are responsible to review and analyze each and every contract written in the town, and that is about 250 contracts per year. We also oversee the LaStage property, and obviously the the Board of Selectmen's office becomes a very common place that anybody who's just trying to contact the town in general comes to us, and then we try to get them in the right direction. We participate in all you know, again, budget hearings and budget preparation. Our line item budget on the town side is 1,200 line items. We assist all departments with maintaining their budgets in munis. Again, we take a look at a number of different things, just not to be repetitive. We talked about the warrants. We talked about the annual town report, which is about 321 pages. We assist the Board of Selectmen with the appointment process that they go through, all of the boards and committees that they appoint to. We make sure that the advertisements are placed for those ads, that we receive the applications of the people who want to serve. We contact the people who are on the board to see if they want to be reappointed and disseminate all of that information to the selectmen for their process. We also have an action needed request system so that online or in person, the people can submit a need for something. It can be anywhere from a pothole to any other service in town comes to us. We've developed a computerized system for dealing with that and disseminating it to the appropriate department. We also are involved with the Traffic Study Committee, and we take care of the parking clerk, people who have parking tickets. We have to oversee that whole function. Again, we have all of the normal functions associated with the department: procurement, personnel, processing bills, and so forth. We offer services to the Municipal Building Committee. We act as their, the town administrator by bylaw is a member of that committee, but we also provide all the clerical functions. Years ago, they used to have their own budget. But in 2010, when we had to cut budgets, we cut that, and the Board of Selectmen assumed all the clerical and administrative and accounting functions for the Municipal Building Committee. When we're involved in a project, that can get very involved at times. We also do all of the licensing and permitting, dealing with all the liquor licenses, common vicular licenses, use of town highways, a number of different licenses that come out every year. We handle all insurance claims to property and liability. Let me just see. And again, we talked about janitorial and maintenance functions. So that gives you an idea of some of the functions. I think that's 10.5 pages of detail, but we just looked at that a little bit. The next item I'd like to go over with you is a chart. I think this is the most graphic way to show what would happen. I mentioned this at one of your previous meetings when we talk about productivity and the capacity to do work. Currently in the Board of Selectmen Town Hall staffing, we have 5 full-time positions and 2 part-time positions. Myself, the assistant to the town administrator, an administrative secretary, senior office assistant, laborer, janitor, full-time. Then we have a part-time clerk and a part-time janitor. In total, saying that I have a 50-hour week and the others have appropriately based on their hours, that's 226 hours. So in step 1, would be to a 4.09% cut. We would eliminate the part-time clerk's position who works 24 hours a week and handles all of the permitting and licensing that goes on through our office. So that means we've got to take that 24 hours of work and give it to somebody else. And if we're giving that person a different 24 hours, then we've got to take away from them 24 hours and move it down. So we would propose under the 4.09% cut to, which for us is $18,433. We'd eliminate that position. We would upgrade the senior office assistant to a principal office assistant because of all the higher level of work that has to be done in relation to licensing and permitting. And that would be a reduction in hours from 226 to 202 hours. The second level, which is 17.35%, represents a cut of $78,278 to our department. And in that, we, in addition to eliminating the part-time clerk, we would also eliminate the part-time janitor. We would convert the principal office assistant position to a part-time clerk position, and we would switch the laborer's janitor position from a full-time to part-time. So that would reduce our hours from 226 to 152, leaving us with myself, 2 full-time people, and 2 part-time people. The 38.26% cut, we would eliminate all full-time positions except mine, and it would leave me with 1 part-time person, 26 hours a week, assisting me with all of the functions in Town Hall. Now, to speak about these things in a little bit different manner, as I said, in the first round, we would eliminate the part-time clerk's position for a savings of $22,651. We would transfer all the licensing and permitting functions to the senior office assistants, reclassify the current position of senior office assistants grade 2 to a principal office assistants grade 4. That additional cost is $2,529. We would add $1,689 to overtime account to take care of added work needed for peak periods. So this is a net savings of $18,000. This reduces our clerical and administrative staff hours by about 13.2%. We have some ideas on what responsibilities would be moved around because of the extra workload placed on the current senior office assistant, but we really have to work through them and adjust to a combination of proceed that produces the best results. It means there are some things we are involved in and services we provide will have to be lessened and in some cases eliminated. Also, we will lose the availability of some backup to help during times of vacation or sick leave. This will result in not being able to respond to issues, inquiries, and requests in a timely manner, and will also probably result in not being able to commit the quality level required by less critical functions. We would no longer be able to provide staff representation for the town on the following regional agencies: GATRA, Finance Committee and Advisory Board, Southeastern Massachusetts Health Group, Steering Committee, and the Attleborough-Taunton Area Home Consortium. The second round of cuts, which is $78,278, we would change 2 full-time clerical positions to 1 full-time position and 1 part-time position. Change the full-time janitor position to a full part-time, and eliminate the part-time janitorial position. This now reduces our clerical and administrative staff hours by about 26%, and our janitor, labor, maintenance staff by about 60%. This also presents a security challenge on making sure that the town hall is properly secured after night meetings. That's when our part-time janitor works. I'm really at a loss right now how we would solve that problem. We've got to do something there. We most probably would not be able to continue to support the Municipal Building Committee, the Workplace Safety Committee, the Traffic Study Committee. We would no longer be able to assist animal control with bookkeeping and budgetary assistance, not be able to support social media distribution of information, or be able to provide proper janitorial maintenance functions for Town Hall, not be able to apply for as many grants, and not be able to support the Commission on Disabilities. The final scenario, which is a 38.26% cut, or $172,593, change the assistant to the town administrator from full-time, 40 hours, to part-time, 26 hours, eliminate the administrative secretary position, eliminate another part-time clerical position, hope that our reduced staff would reduce our electricity expenses by $1,000, reduce building maintenance expenses by 32%, $8,500, eliminate all educational supplies and professional publications, eliminate all mileage reimbursement for travel outside of town for town business. This would basically eliminate going out of town. The recycled police cruiser we use for town hall is not dependable enough for long-distance traveling such as Boston. Eliminate membership in all professional organizations such as the MMA, MMMA, Bristol County Selectmen's Association, etc. This now reduces our clerical and administrative staff hours by about 58.2%, and reduces our labor janitorial maintenance staff by about 60%. This leaves us with only the town administrator and a part-time assistant to the town administrator in the Board of Selectmen's office. In the event that one person is at a meeting and the other is out sick or vacation, there will be no coverage in the Board of Selectmen's office. This level of cuts will force us to eliminate several services. First of all, parking clerk. All parking tickets will have to be paid via mail or visiting the Registry of Motor Vehicles. Payments will not be able to be processed at Town Hall. We will not be able to support the action needed request system. We will not be able to focus any time on economic development. We'll have to completely change the layout and size of the annual report and just limit it to data and financial reports. We will not be able to do long-term planning. The budget and CIP process will have to start in August in order to get it through by April. The town administrator will have to do all the clerical work associated with these functions, and we'd have to eliminate keeping the website updated with current activity. I'll be glad to answer any questions anyone may have.
You'd be one busy guy, wouldn't you?
Whoever town administrator is will be very busy.
You know, I hate to say it, but it's already, too late, but this information, we should have done this exercise ahead of that.
Get the white book with you?
Well, no, I know, I have the white book, yes, but I mean, to the public, I have the white book right
No,
here.
it's on TV.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I get very irritated when I hear this. Starting in August, we started telling that story.
right, I'm talking
On
about
TV,
publishing it.
on TV.
Right.
And, okay?
I'm talking about publishing it. Not many people know, not many people watch local TV. Those of us that are concerned watch local TV, the others, 80% don't, I don't know. This is just depressing.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No. But no, I understand, I don't know if you're directing that to the television audience.
Yes.
I mean, I think that the town, the 5 years I've been sitting here with the Board of Selectmen, and the 12 years I've been out, it's getting better and better in the 5 years of selectmen. We didn't, I think Mr. Fisher, as town administrator, starting last year election saying, this is where I want the board, this is where I would like to do to prepare the town for the following election. That was last year on April, and
Yep.
as I as chairman, I did say, I'm all behind you. In every meeting, he went and said something 3 times a month to sitting board members. Tell me, stop it anytime you want to. I'm paraphrasing his words because it's much more professional than I am. And to sit here a year later and say that we should have more, and this is on my deck, I took things out tonight, and I'm glad I did because he was throwing them on the floor. I'm getting discouraged because comments that you're making, Barry, I'm hearing from my own board. And I'm hearing of elected boards and other commissioners saying, well, why did you tell us? And if you've been informed, I mean, we have been doing public information since September, October, November, and December. The Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee sat together in this room and made a public vote of where this town goes. I am so discouraged to still hear comments like that, and to say, have people, elected officials on the board, and not you on TV North saying, we need collaboration. I'm totally dumbfounded, 5 years sitting on the Board of Selectmen. We as a board sat right there together, making a public statement where we feel as though this town is going with true heart.
Go back 5 years.
And it just is so discouraging to be here and to have comments still made there. We are here, we need to go forward, we are going to town meetings, and we are gonna make these cuts.
Right, and what are the other 80% of the people in town doing? Nothing. They don't know this information. That's what I'm trying to say. I just wish there was, we could have.
And we're gonna do the best that we can, and we can allow the other 80% have a quality life living here in the most spectacular town in North Attleborough, because you and I are gonna make this right.
Got that right.
And we're gonna allow them to stay in their homes, to have the value of their home, educate their kids, and have park and rec. Because you and I are sitting here. And that is our responsibility as appointed and elected officials to those who choose not to come here and choose not to vote, to make them, give them the best possible life they have here in North Attleborough. And I believe that.
And Barry, go back 5 years on our 5-year projections.
Oh, he said it.
He's been saying it
He's
for
been saying
many,
it.
many years.
5, 6,
Yeah.
7 years now.
Many years.
And I've always been asking, is there a better way to get this information out? Because when you talk to people and you say, hey, did you see it? No, we put it on the I don't read I don't read the local paper. I don't watch the local TV. Right.
You know, it's all public documents. It's
Right.
all
But
out
there's
there.
nothing we can do about that
Information's
there.
out there. People want to see it, but nobody wants to see it because they live in a fallacy world. The things are gonna keep on happening the way they're happening, and we're gonna find the money, because we always do. Well, guess what? We can't find it.
It's not here.
It's not there.
And I apologize, Barry.
No, I know, you're passionate about it just the way that we are. I mean, that's what frustrates me the most.
We're gonna be having, we're looking at closing town hall. Somehow we have to look at opening up 2
88%
days.
closing it. We got no choice. We can't sustain that.
No.
And then those 80% will reach out to you or to me.
Right, and say what happened, what's going on. I just think the way that you presented it to me struck a chord with me in this method of presentation, right? Because I've read through the book and
You understand, though, our job tonight is not to convince the public,
I understand that. That's what I'm trying to say.
okay? But if it was to convince the public, we tried doing that since September.
And we got the same.
You've been trying to do that for 5 years.
Yeah.
Would you like me to cover the articles?
Certainly.
Okay, I guess that's what you want us to do, too. I'll go through them. First of all, the annual town meeting. The town reports, we're doing the final proof on them. They should all be ready for distribution with your recommendation on the budget. Articles 3 and 4, and you've had a lot of discussion about that this evening, dealing with stipends for elected and appointed officials. Those people petitioned the Board of Selectmen and asked them to continue to present Articles 3 and 4 with the numbers, the stipends that were normally there. Their feeling was, and it appears the Board of Selectmen agreed with them, they didn't want to have them disappear from the table. They wanted them there. I will tell you, in the leveled service budget that was calculated and that your cuts are being taken from, there was no funding of any stipends in any of those positions for elected or appointed officials. There are some union stipends that we have to deal with, but not for that.
Say that again?
There are some union stipends, like we pay stipends to union employees for extra certification, but we have to fund those stipends, okay? But there are no,
Those are in the budget.
huh?
Those are in the budget.
Those are in the budget, but there's nothing in the budget for stipends for elected or appointed officials.
I am going to assume that town clerk and the treasurer are.
Those are in the,
they're in there.
those are in there, that's correct. The omnibus budget, obviously, we're waiting for your recommendation, and we'll go from there. The CIP, which is 4 articles, I've provided with you at a previous meeting, the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen on the capital improvements program, $54,000 on Article 6A, funded through taxation, $565,860 for funds funded through available funds, $5,118,756 for projects funded through borrowing, and then obviously 6D is for grants. Article 7 deals with the 53rd week payroll cycle reserve. This is now the 3rd year. Because we have 2 extra days this year, beyond that, it's $108,385. Number 8 deals with OPEB. I'm going to just talk about water, sewer, and solid waste first. That is the amount of money that has been calculated for their current liability for this year, and it is 1/27th of their past liability. In other words, it's a 27-year program that we have to try to fit to pay up the unfunded liability. For the- yeah.
Excuse me. I'm gonna say something, tell me what I'm saying wrong, I learn better that way. I do. It was decided that you would pick up, I guess, 2 years ago,
Go ahead.
and you would make the contribution for the people 30 years out.
Not quite, so let me see if I can correct that.
That's what I'm, that's, see?
About 3 or 4 years ago, when this first started, and we had to have our first actuarial study done, the requirement was that we had to report what our unfunded liability was at that point in time, and have a plan to fund it over a 30-year period. We did nothing of the first 3 years to speak of. That's why we're talking in terms of 1/27th. It's a 27-year program that we're on. We're gonna try to do it for the 3 enterprise accounts, and the electric department is doing it independently. On the general town employees, what we're attempting to do is draw a line in the sand and say, any new person who enrolls in our health insurance program, we're gonna contribute a sum of money that's around $5,300. Not contribute, put $5,300 into the OPEB fund, and that takes them for their current liability and future liability based on 1 year's employment. We estimate, based on some trends, that we would get 9 new people into our health insurance. Not necessarily 9 additional employees. They could be 9 replacement employees. They could be somebody who's been an employee of the town and has had some qualifying event where they've lost insurance from a spouse and now have taken insurance through the town. Next year, if we have 9 additional people, that now would double. We would be contributing $103,000, $104,000 into it. The final part of that plan deals with converting the amount of money we're now putting into the retirement fund to fund the unfunded liability there. And this year it's about $1.2 million of our assessment for the pension system is actually going to fund the unfunded liability in the pension system. And that we have to fund by statute. OPEB, we don't have to fund it yet, but we're trying to. Our schedule puts us paying off or being fully funded, taking care of our unfunded liability in 2032. Was 2033, but they're doing a pretty good job, and it went down to 2032. In 2032, we would divert the amount of money that we're paying into for the unfunded liability of the pension fund and put it into the unfunded liability of the OPEB fund. Okay, that's the long-term plan. We should be putting over $3 million a year into this right now. Needless to say, it's a far, far reach, but I think this at least draws a line in the sand and gets us going as we move on. The other thing that we're doing is trying to cut down our exposure and expenses for health insurance for our retired employees. The Southeast Mass Health Group, which we're very active in, has adopted a new plan that just splits up the medical coverage and the prescription coverage. You actually have 2 cards, still with Blue Cross Blue Shield in our case, but it reduced the cost by 25% for the same coverage. Not only the cost to the town, but the cost to the retiree. Now that really has a good effect on when we do the next actuarial study, our future liability is going to be based on a much less expensive plan. So that's Article 8. Articles 9 through 12 deal with contracts that are under negotiations. They are not settled at this time, so we would be saying to indefinitely postpone them. And Article 13 dealing with part-time schedule, that currently we're saying postpone those. Yes.
On the town funding for OPEB,
Yes.
that's a person for the year.
Yep.
So if we don't have to do it, should we?
If we don't, if we keep kicking this can down, we're gonna be in the same problem with this as we have been with the stabilization fund up till now. We've gotta start taking little steps to address this. And when we're talking about 51,000 versus over 3 million, that's a very small step, and I think that's the way we've gotta ease our way into this. The next is the June 1st, special town meeting, and I'm sorry for the typo, the handout says ATM, that's.
I corrected this.
Thank you. First of all, Article 1 deals with supplementing the 2015 budget, and this is strictly with snow and ice. Snow and ice account has a deficit, or I should say our expense is $1,231,000. We budget $200,000, so we've got a deficit of $1,031,000. At the March 23rd special town meeting, the RTM appropriated $200,000 towards that deficit, leaving us with $831,000 deficit. The state government has applied to the federal government, FEMA, for assistance with snow removal. The governor did a valiant job trying to get them to cover all 4 storms that we received during the month into January and February. Unfortunately, the federal government will only assist with 1 storm, the 3-day blizzard, as they refer to it, and I forget the name of it. They all have names now. And for a 72-hour period. Now, matter of fact, we've got 2 people going to a special meeting on this. I think it's next week or the week after, to get some of the details. But it appears right now they're going to reimburse us 75%, and our expenses during that 72-hour period was only around $222,000. So right now we are calculating roughly a reimbursement of about $161,000. So when it's all over, we're still short $669,856. We're recommending that $55,032.61 of that comes out of free cash. Okay, it's all but $519.12 of our balance. And that $614,823.59 comes out of stabilization. That would leave us a stabilization balance, the lowest it's been in about 20 years, of around $836,350 in that area, okay? Article 2 deals with the prior year's medical bill, $519.12. There's actually 2 bills that total that. We're recommending that that comes out of free cash. Article 3, I have to tell you, there was a typo in the warrant article because they took the last insurance proceeds and reproduced it, but it's not for a police department thing. It's for the damage to the high school during the blizzard. The roof collapsed on the entranceway. So we're going to be consulting with the moderator to see if she'll let that go, the Scribner's error, or how we got to handle that. But and I think that proceeds are in the vicinity of $25,000. Once we get a firm number on that, we'll get that to Michelle so that when you make your recommendation, it's for the same number. Anything over $20,000, accepting the proceeds on the insurance payment, has to go before town meeting.
So this is the same police car?
No, it isn't. I said that was an
Okay.
error. It's for the high school damage. Where you were not listening, Ron?
No, I was focused on.
Everybody else got it, Ron.
Yeah.
You were thinking of the question you were going to ask.
I didn't want to disappoint you, Mike.
You never do, Ron. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Where does that money go, that insurance?
It'll go to pay the cost of the,
It'll pay the worker, okay.
Yeah. Articles 5 through 9 deal with some bylaw changes, appointing authority that the Board of Selectmen are trying to get through. There have been some technical issues that we're dealing with the town council with. We've been in discussion with the bylaw study committee, so at the current time, we're probably gonna suggest that that be IP'd until those issues can be resolved. Unless the bylaw study committee votes on something different tonight. They met at 6 o'clock tonight. Article 17 deals with the termination of an easement that's no longer needed. And Article 18 is an article we always put in if we wanted to put money in the stabilization fund. We have no money to do that. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have on the articles. If not, thank you very much for your time and effort.
Mark, quickie.
Quickie, Ron?
Yeah,
Go
quickie.
ahead.
Timing on the labor contracts, will they be done?
I don't think they'll be done by the time you make your recommendations.
Oh, okay.
How about for town meeting?
I
Probably
like to
not.
think so, but we'll have to see. I think, a lot of the unions are waiting to see what your recommendations are gonna be and what the effects will have on staffing and so forth, and that will result in what I'm gonna call reactive negotiations.
It's like a catch-22.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Let's just try Tony.
We just sent you a copy of the assessment,
Yeah,
and that's what we have budgeted, the number is there, that's just a.
it's
Okay.
a formality for every
No
year.
change,
Okay.
okay.
Why is it so much higher than everybody else?
Two reasons. One is there's only one reason. We have the biggest percentage of, the biggest number of people enrolled in it. Nobody has anywhere near that. For example, last year, going into this current school year, their enrollment dropped 16 people, their total enrollment. But those students increased by 21. So we have more students in there than any other participating towns.
Why?
Why?
It's a great
It's
school.
a great program.
It's a great program.
Yeah, well, now the number of kids, I've been fortunate to go to a couple of their graduations, and you'd be amazed the number of kids that get scholarships to Ivy League schools out of Tri-County.
Yes, John?
I just wanted to ask a question. I was hoping to get Mark while I was up at the podium.
Never stopped me before, John, I can go
No,
back.
I
in a
know,
second.
I know. Last week, at the selectmen's meeting, it was brought up by an individual that they talked about the cuts that would happen, with, the town hall. And the recommendation from this person was, well, just have more volunteers doing the job. So my question is, I don't think volunteers can do, jobs that are employees that are in the union. So I just wanted some clarification on that, if someone could clarify that.
I'll give an attempt, if you don't mind me speaking from
No,
this
no,
mic.
go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I think the camera's on.
They got you,
Um,
Mark.
There is no written law that says you can't do that. But the unions would have a very strong grievance if that happened. But the cuts that are in the front of us are so far beyond that. That's not the issue. The biggest, I thought that, and I apologize as to what board it was that gave their presentation tonight about the volunteers doing certain things. You're asking somebody about interns and IT department. We have, for example, the tax work-off program, and we participate in that every year. Some years we're fortunate, if we get somebody who can paint, do different things, that isn't too physically demanding, has a little bit of finesse. A lot of departments use them for cyclical, redundant filing things. Good example is the solid waste department all their bills go out in July, payment is in August, it's the middle of this program, so they have two people that come in and just take paperwork and combine things and staple them, and, you know, it's great, okay? And there are a few other departments that do similar things. Mr. Stack was a painter for us one year. So, there are certain things, but it's just when we, I'm talking about licensing, okay? I mean, it takes somebody a year. Like the person we're throwing this all onto desk has been facing the licensing clerk's desk for 3 years. So she's gotten quite an education and exposure to it. But to think that we're gonna have a volunteer come in and say, okay, you're gonna do licensing, you're gonna deal with the ABCC, you're gonna, you know, there are just not enough functions to do it. And sometimes it, you know, I've had, twice I've had interns working with me, and I look at it more as me volunteering for them. It's me helping them get exposure for something. You know, you gotta work to say, okay, what have I got for the intern today? You know, and taking that, depending on what the intern was, it might be taking them to a meeting and trying to expose them to something. And so I don't want to discourage that participation of volunteerism or internships. You know, I think we have that responsibility, but to think that we're going to take over these town duties with volunteer help, you're going to not scratch the surface.
I would think there would be an issue of confidentiality and that
I
kind
mean,
of
there are
things. There's a lot
certain
of
things,
they
certain
can't
things
see.
there are, and certain things there aren't, but, you know, it's just, there are some limiting factors.
Can I add somebody to the agenda, just, have it, Bob also on,
Right.
Article 12 and,
All right.
right, 12 and 13?
Those are the numbers you got on the
special?
schedule,
Not done yet, he's on the schedule, it's posted on the website, it's
the revised schedules, right?
good. Yeah, it's flux right now.
Hi, I'm Bob Nurse, Precinct 7 Chairman of the RTM Coordinating Committee. And there are two articles, Article 12 and 13, that were sponsored for us by the town clerk, but they're really originated with the RTM Coordinating Committee. One of our goals for the year was to review the bylaws as they affect RTM, the town meeting process, and anything else we stumbled upon along the way. And so we had a series of meetings where we voted on different changes, and these changes have all been voted by the RTM Coordinating Committee. Article 12, I would call those mostly editorial changes, correcting phrasing and spelling and wording and that sort of thing. And Article 13 are, I would call process improvements or procedure improvements. But I can go through them quickly if you'd like. And so there's like A through I on Article 12. And like the first one, all we're doing is in the index, Serpid's name is, you hear the word Serpid thrown, well, it can be spelled out the long way, and that's the way it's supposed to be spelled out if you do it the long way. Just correcting it. And then B was just correcting a phrasing that didn't read very well. C, same thing, just correcting phrasing. D was just clarifying, it was referring to who can and can't be on the FinCom. And it was suggesting that RTM members are officers of the town, and they're not officers of the town, we're just RTM members. So that's just clarifying that. E was in a section talking about it was referring to the annual town meeting. You need time to. Everybody's flipping there. Okay, I got an extra copy if you want to follow along.
Yeah.
Okay.
The numbering got cut off, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry
Here,
about that.
here's one with the.
Oh, thank you.
So, E is. E is just correcting something that must have been left over from open town meeting. It says the FinCom makes recommendations to the voters of the town, and just change it to FinCom makes recommendations to the town meeting. F was just a typo in something about the electric commission. G was a big blooper. The school committee formula, it mentions, so many per year, and it had a 4-year cycle for the elections for the school committee, and we've never used a 4-year cycle that I know. We use a 3-year cycle. We have 2-2-3, 2-2-3 for a total of 7, but that's not what the bylaw said. It did have the total correct, but the formula it had did not produce the total it said, and so we just made them in sync.
Well, just a general overall comment before we continue. Has town council looked at this in terms of your interpretive changes? Has it been reviewed by town council?
No, it's not.
It has not been. Okay, so is this just purely by the folks on the RTM coordinating committee? Okay. Just curious.
Again, I is against changing Serpid's name in a listing somewhere. So those are all pretty much editorial changes, I would say. The biggest blooper being the school board election formula was incorrect. So the second one, and again, if it's cut off, you're pretty cool enough. Article 13 is 4 changes, A, B, C, and D. And these are more process improvements. The first one, okay, so this has to do with where we post warrants. Currently, we post them in one in every voting precinct. Like in precinct 7, it's at Cumberland Farms. Just out of curiosity, after living in town for 30-odd years, I went to Cumberland Farms and said, "Do you have the warrant?" And they said, "We've been waiting 30 years for somebody to ask for that." And surprisingly, the guy knew where it was, and he knew what it was, but he said nobody had ever asked for it before. And I assume that's, pretty common. I mean, there's obviously in precinct 1, it's in the library. I assume in the library, a lot of people ask for the warrant. I know, like Mr. Dromsky, whenever he wants to see the warrant, that's where he goes. If I want to see it, that's where I go. But in any case, this is just specifying where it would be posted in the future. We're looking to cost down and streamline and get modern. So take away posting 9 random places that nobody knows about across town and replacing it with town hall lobby. How about that, a place where you should be able to view the warrant, but you haven't in the past. Richards Memorial Library is still on there with if it still exists after June. They tend to have business hours that are different than town hall, so it widens the window of when you can look at the warrant in person. And also on the town website.
Who maintains that?
What's that?
Who would maintain that on the town website? Because Mark said he...
Mark posted it, I posted it, town clerk, it's on the website multiple times.
Oh, it's already, oh, okay, it's already been done.
I agree.
So it's there voluntarily, catch as catch can, now it'll be there by bylaw. So that's the first one, just where does the warrant get posted? The second one,
No longer 9 places,
just 3.
2 and
2 on the website. Joining the modern age. B is just the mechanics regarding the semi-annual town meeting. It was rigid that August 20th was the last day to file a petition for the warrant, and it had to close after that. No longer, 7 days later, it had to close. Okay, so if August 20th is a Wednesday, that means the selectmen have to close the warrant the following night, which is like a clerical fire drill, for one thing. And if they didn't have a meeting scheduled for that night, because it's the summertime or something, they have to schedule one for that. So it just, it's just too rigid. So we changed it to something that will always work. Made the 3rd Monday in August the last day to file a petition, and the selectmen have to close the warrant within 10 days after that. And that sort of follows the formula. I believe that the annual town meeting uses a similar formula, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, 13 is just broadening something. I'm sorry, item C, which refers to page 13 in the bylaws, is talking about when the FinCom gets copies of the warrant. And this was talking specifically about, or it was ambiguous. You could infer that it was talking only about the annual town meeting. Only for the annual town meeting did the FinCom have to get a copy of the warrant the Monday after the warrant closed. We just changed the word, the warrant to any warrant. So for any meeting, whether it's a special town meeting, annual, semi-annual, whatever, you guys have to get a copy of the warrant by the Monday after the warrant closes. So it's generalizing it from something specific to the annual town meeting to, now that we're in kind of a 4 or more meetings per year mode, all the meetings. And D is looking at distribution of the warrant copies. Now, for years, the RTM coordinating committee got 3 copies in a pigeonhole at town hall with a big binder clip. You guys get the same thing. But because we're not on the same cycle you're on, generally speaking, I'm picking up those warrant things like after your FinCom recommendations are already out, But maybe I would have wanted to see the warrant, but I just don't get to town hall during the day to pick them up. So, because they're paper, and then I got 3 copies. I look at it and I take them to meetings and say, does anybody want the second and third copy? And nobody raises their hand. So anyways, it just got me thinking that we can streamline this. So, the first thing is I knocked RTM coordinating committee from 3 copies down to 1. We added 2 people, 2 things that weren't, a person and a thing that weren't included in the past. The town clerk was not on the distribution list in the past. I have no idea why, but that would seem to be, that's who I'd ask for it first. If I wandered in the town hall and said, hey, do you have the warrant? That might be who I'd ask first, but he's not even on the list to get one. And then I added the town website. And then the language goes on. It says, any on the preceding distribution list may elect to receive these documents as email attachments or emailed links to the town website instead of by paper. So that's at the election of the recipient, not at the election of Michelle. So I could email Michelle, I never want a paper warrant again. Matter of fact, don't even send me a 2 meg PDF, just send me the link to where it is on the website and you've done the job. So, and anybody else could do that too. You guys, if you don't, I would want paper if I were sitting there taking notes and everything, and I understand why you guys do want paper, but there's a lot of people that may not want paper, and they can dig out of the process and save a tree, so.
There might be some disclosure issues regarding electronic transmittals versus paper. Remember that whole issue?
Get some retention requirements.
Yeah, retention requirement. Max brought that up. Remember that whole issue? Paper versus electronic, what you can or can't do. That's something.
I'm not talking about archiving, I'm talking
I know,
about
but it's the same general legal gist of it.
distribution,
Yeah,
yep.
the distribution.
No, I'm aware that the state last updated their archiving laws to bring it in line with parchment and quill pens, I think. So. Any questions on those articles? Yes.
How do the RTM members get their copies?
They
They
don't.
don't get copies.
They don't.
That's right, that's right.
They don't because it's
That's right.
a
Sorry.
binder clip of paper this thick. But if it were an emailed link, I could just forward to rtm@attleborough.com and they all would get it the same day I do. Exactly. Yep.
Just ask for it, sent to you.
Yeah, I
It's-
send it to anybody that asks me all the time.
So, in any case, well, you did just recently, like today. But it's just institutionalizing things so that they don't have to be asked for, they just happen automatically and that sort of thing. Any other questions? Yes?
I have a comment. Pursuing town treasurer, tax collector, again, I'm not the expert on this, but because bond counsel seeks it every time we go for borrowing, bond counsel requires that that he gets a certified copy from the town clerk that postings are made in each precinct. I believe that's a state law, so you can have bond counsel or regular town counsel or bylaw study research that, but I believe there has to be a posting in each single precinct of the warrant by law.
Yeah, I think Max said down in Island Oaks.
But is it not posted? Is it hidden somewhere in Cumberland Farms? You gotta know to ask for it?
He's saying that it's in our bylaw, but it's not in our bylaw, why do we have to do it?
It's a state law, he said. State law.
I don't know that for fact, but you need some verification before we launch into that. And I know John has a comment. And by the way, Max Gould, town clerk, had actually gone to town meeting a year and a half ago to have that reduced. It used to be 15 places, and he got it reduced so it was 1 per precinct. So there were multiples per precinct at that point. Thank you.
Mark, as a procedural question, following up on David's question, will this be reviewed by town council?
That's up to the, not by, we can, if somebody wants it to, you can send it to them, but if it's a bylaw study committee, usually sends it to town council for review.
So that'll happen, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing, I just quickly want to point out that, that if it's not, something's not in our town bylaw, then it defers to the state. Okay? So not everything is in our town bylaw. And so, there are a lot of things that we follow by state. Okay? And so that's why certain things aren't in our regular bylaw.
Thank you.
Anybody, anything else to come up before us? Being 9:30.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
All those in favor of adjourning at 9:30?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're adjourned at 9:30.